Ben-mcwhinney-outdoor-radio is brought to you by anglerschoice.ca, the Angler's Choice in handmade soft plastics. Also presented to you by Handlebars Musky Lures, Zing the Bling, Frantic Big Game Baits, Keiths-Trophy-Fishn, Fish NV Guide Service, and Husky-Musky-Leaders. You're listening to Ben-mcwhinney-outdoor-radio. Hey folks, welcome to Ben-mcwhinney-outdoor-radio, right here on the Reno-Viola Outdoor Web Radio Network. I'm here with Gary-Hodge, and Gary is the owner of G1 Floats, a steelhead float manufacturer here in Canada. Gary, welcome to the show. Gary, how's it been? You're going to Quinte.
We're doing some Quinte fishing, but the business is really going crazy. This southern Ontario is a huge area for steelheading, and tons of great rivers around here, and the float business is fantastic. I've been float fishing for quite a long time, and I've been making floats for about a year, and it just took off, and I actually cannot keep them in stock. Business is just amazing.
That's awesome. Right here in the Grand River watershed, fantastic float fishing opportunities, and your floats are absolutely gorgeous. The finish on them, and it's just amazing. You do a great job.
Well, I appreciate that. You know what? I've been steelheading for a long time. And I've taken a lot of what I learned and a lot of what I've seen and put it into a really good, a solid product. They're really well balanced, extremely sensitive, detecting the slightest hits. They're terribly durable. You can throw them into a tree, hit them off a rock, but they also hold a lot of shot, and they're better for casting and good weight distribution.
Yep.
It just is a fantastic float all around, and guys have been extremely happy with the product so far.
Now it's you're at your hotel in and around the Quinte area now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you're going for walleye.
We are going for walleye.
Okay, now there's been tell of people floating for walleye. Got any input there?
Well, this time of year out in the Bay of Quinte, it's mostly trolling.
Okay.
Crankbaits and stuff. However, I interestingly enough, you mentioned that I have an amazing pattern for summertime hump walleye, where guys will throw jigs and not get many bites. And I'm talking about a finicky bite where you're in shallow humps, 3 to 10 feet, and using floats just has its way.
Yep.
And what it does is those spooky walleye that are sitting on those humps in shallow water that get spooked, you slide up a slip float on top of the hump.
Yep.
Boulders, leeches, that sort of thing. Not only can you detect the slightest hit, but you can work the edges in the humps and maintain over top of that fish's strike zone for a lot longer time. A jig, you'll drop it down, and as you pull it towards you in the boat or whatever, it's coming away from that fish. If you want to get right in that strike zone, floats are the way to do it. It's got its time and its place. You find your niche, and they work really well.
Awesome. Gary Hodge, you can find him on Facebook. G1 Floats is the company. Gary Hodge, my guest. Gary, that's all the time we have today. Appreciate you coming on the show, and we're going to have an after show, and Gary's going to be invited back to talk more about his product and how he got started. So stick around for that. Not a problem, Gary, and thank you. Hey folks, if you like what you hear on Ben-mcwhinney-outdoor-radio, be sure to drop us a line. Ben-mcwhinney-outdoors at yahoo.com.
We are Rob and Rob, and you're on the water with the Assassins. Steelheading. That's the theme of this week's show. And although we are far from experts on the subject, we figured we would stick with the theme and offer at least one tip from our few experiences. It's something that seems pretty simple, but once the fish is on, some anglers we've watched lock up and forget to move with the fish, which puts unnecessary stress on the equipment and usually results in break-offs. take the time to check for obstacles and dangers along the shoreline beforehand, but once the fish is running, you have to get after it. Honestly, it's the greatest, most exhausting, heart-pumping part of the experience. That's it this week, short and sweet. The Steelhead can be the sexiest catch of your year, so don't miss a photo opportunity. And when you hook up, remember, your feet aren't frozen to the ground just yet. Until next time on the water with the Assassins, right here on Ben McWhinney-Outdoors, tight lines.
Hey gang, Extreme Angler TV and all of the lake resorts are teaming up once again to bring you another fantastic prize vacation. Stay tuned right here for more updates. And also, like all of the Lake Fishing Lodge on Facebook to keep up to date as well. Tight lines.
And that's not a hard, that's only an easy day's drive for most of the folks in southern Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you, it is Alaska, going to Alaska without all the hassles of going to Alaska.
Absolutely.
Scenery is beyond belief.
Yeah.
You have most of those rivers to yourself. The fishing in Lake Superior at the river mouths, like the guys around Thornbury and Collingwood area, and how they fish the surf and the river mouths in southern Ontario, you go up and do that on the north shore of Lake Superior, and you will have 50, 60 miles of the most spectacular scenery on earth all to yourself, and the fishing is out of this world.
Yeah, speaking of the North Shore, we had a technical difficulty that I fixed up, but speaking of the North Shore, we lived 6.7 miles in from the Goulet Bay River, or Goulet Bay Harbor and the main road there, and the Edmunds Fitzgerald went down not too far from that whole area. And my mom told me of stories of when the waters got bad on that North Shore, they would come into this bay and line up, and it would look like a city on the water. And some of the best steelhead fishing is all through that stretch, coming right up into the city of Sault Ste. Marie.
It is, Ben. I mean, you can. What I normally do, I've got a couple of friends actually in Sault Ste. Marie, so I'll usually get a hotel right in the Soo.
Yeah.
And then we take off in the morning, and it's an hour drive or half-hour drive. And you just have so many rivers at your disposal, and we'll go up to Lake Superior Provincial Park, and you can walk through the bush and walk down the shorelines. The water is crystal clear. It's all that white pine country.
Yep.
And these are, the interesting thing, the steelhead aren't nearly as big as southern Ontario. So, big steelhead in that area, you're running high single digits, 10, 12 pounds of really good-sized fish. But the fight is incredible.
Oh, they're rocket ships up there.
Pardon me?
They're rocket ships up there.
They are, Ben, and they're 100% pure, solid muscle.
Yep.
I mean, the coho and Chinook salmon are very similar. The salmon, the size of the salmon in Superior is much, much smaller than, say, Lake Ontario. But I have never seen fish that fight like that. They are comparable to the fish in the Queen Charlottes.
Wow.
If you keep some of those smaller guys, especially the salmon, you keep a couple of those small salmon, 5, 7, 9 pounders, and you keep them for a barbecue or whatever. When you clean them, Ben, they are as red as prime beef. And there's just something about that crystal ice-cold water in Lake Superior that brings out the best in steelhead and salmon and most of those cold water fish.
Well, the water's all coming down, right? From like the Hudson Bay and James Bay and all that. All that cold water is getting
Superior is the largest lake in the world.
Yeah.
The single largest lake in the world, and it actually does have its own drainage system. So, but your lakes are lakes like Lake Nipigon and the Nipigon River, the Steel River. So it has a massive flow coming into it, and because it's so deep, the turnover rate, the water that's in Lake Superior, system. And I'm always amazed. It's so close to southern Ontario. And you have, the folks that are listening in and the guys down there that fish for steelhead. They're so good in southern Ontario. If they ever went to the North Shore.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have a few friends that do an annual trip up to the Sioux, and I have a fan and Facebook friend, Tyler Dunn. I just want to throw a hats off to you. He's a Sault Ste. Marie steelhead, and he's begging me to come up there. So I'm gonna have to make another trip, probably around Christmas. I think we'll take another family trip up there. The Chevy made her up there the first time, so I'm pretty sure she'll make it up a second time.
And here's the other interest. I have a couple of friends there, as I mentioned, Craig Calder, Craig and his brother Kevin, young fellas, not younger than me. And this is the neat thing that you can do on Superior that you can't do anywhere else. And they fish that area again from Sault Ste. Marie up to about Lake Superior Park. They'll just take a backpack and a small tent, and they will walk the beach. You can walk for 10, 20, 25 miles, and they take a small tent with them. They actually tent over and tent out, and they will spend 3, 4, 5 days walking the shoreline of Superior. And there's all these, some of them are actually unnamed little river mouths, and they're fishing them. And it is an experience for the average steelheader or for a steelheader you can't get anywhere else. And, if you love fishing for rainbow trout and you like fishing for steelhead, Alaska's always the big draw. And this is Alaska without the hassle.
Yeah.
You hop in your car, and in 6, 7, 8 hours from southern Ontario, you're kind of in Alaska.
It's barren. It's densely forested. There's huge rock cuts. Massive, what we would call a pond, but they're lakes up there.
Yes, and no grizzly bears.
And no grizzly bears. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Well, Gord, thank you so much for your time. Any tips that you can give the steelheaders out there?
You know what, Ben, most of the folks know this anyway, but, the real key with steelhead, or often the key with steelhead, and it confuses the new folks that are starting out, and that is colors of baits, whether you're fishing for spawn sacks or single legs, that sort of thing. And they're confused when rivers are high and they're muddy and lots of flow. And what I always say to people is, think of the steelhead react and act a lot like we do. When you go out in the spring or the fall, and it's windy and it's cold, and you got to put a coat on and you're bundled up, that's the time when steelhead pull into shore or pull into the rivers, the sides of the banks. They're looking for the undercuts. They're looking for the big obstructions. On the other hand, Ben, when the weather is gorgeous, all of a sudden it gets warm and it gets sunny, and it feels like, man, I want to go outside. I want to be outside. It's just such a gorgeous day. That's when you find the steelhead in the typical runs and the typical spots. But when that river cleans and it clears up and it starts to drop, that's when you want to go to ever smaller and smaller baits. And when it's high and muddy, of course, that's when you can go to larger spawn sacks or yarn flies or those sorts of things. And that's when you can really start getting into the gaudy colors. And the other thing, Ben, on the colors, mix them up.
There you go.
If you can't decide whether you should go to chartreuse or fire tiger or a bright orange or a bright red, mix them up. There's no law that says you only have to use that one.
There you go.
Mix your threads, mix your yarns.
Yep.
And often when you find that secret color for the day, you can really make hay.
Awesome. Gord Pyzer, folks, fishing editor of Outdoor Canada magazine. And you can also catch him on the Real Fishing Radio Show with Bob Azumi, or the Outdoor Journal Show that plays on the Fan 590. Gord, always a pleasure. Thank you for being a part of Ben McWhinney Outdoor Radio here on Reno-Viola's Outdoor Web Radio Network.
Well, thank you, Ben. It's always fun.
Take care.
Take care.
All right, folks, welcome back. You're listening to Ben-mcwhinney-outdoor-radio right here on the Reno-Viola Outdoor Web Radio Network. Rachel Moffatt, welcome to the show. How are you? You're very welcome. You know what? I've been following you on WFN, and you've been making some posts, and it looks like you like steelheading, and that's this week's topic.
Oh, excellent.
So, what can you tell us about steelhead?
Oh, I'm addicted to it. I have tried bottom bouncing, and I'm really into the float fishing. I have a small river here that's open most of the year. Actually, it's open. This one stretch of river is open all year long.
What stretch is that?
It's just the junction of Black Creek below the Lynn River that runs into Lake Erie, and it's open for salmon and steelhead and trout year round.
Wow,
yeah,
that's a lot of good fishing.
Year, but I fish it most of the year.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a really good opportunity because it's so local to my house.
Mm-hmm.
So I can spend a lot of time there.
And you take the kids too?
I do. My youngest is not quite into it yet because it takes a little more patience than he's willing to have.
Mm-hmm.
My oldest, he's really into fishing, especially even off the pier here in Dover. He loves to fish for perch, and even gobies throw him right now.
Awesome. Well, it's the little ones that lead to the big ones. I know the other spring I took my son out pan fishing, and we're in this little bay on a pond, and I could see them. They were all stacked under this one dead stump, and all of a sudden, threw the float out for him, and he's sitting there waiting, and this little pike, it was probably 17 inches, snatched up the lure and just started screaming line. He's like, "Daddy, what do I do?" I was like, "Reel." He wouldn't stop reeling. So yeah, it's the little ones to the big ones that keep the kids hooked for sure. So, what kind of setup do you use, Rachel, for when you go steelheading?
For when I float, I have a Raven, a slow water float.
Okay.
And then I have the long leader. I would use a fluorocarbon leader.
Mm-hmm.
And the Raven specialist hook. And then, depending on the situation, I like to use either a bead or the row bag.
Mm-hmm. What do you find that there's an effective time when to use row and when to go artificial?
I find first early in the season is best for row.
Mm-hmm.
After the fishing pressure's been a bit heavy for a while, and when the salmon have been gone, when the eggs kind of seem to wash out a bit, then it doesn't seem like the row doesn't work as well.
Ah.
So then I switch over to beads.
Perfect. And somebody's calling. So now you're a WFN ambassador.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Sorry?
Hang on here. I'm going to take this call. I'm going to stop tape. So tell me a little bit about WFN and when you started that venture.
That would have been around November of 2010, and I just kind of stumbled on that. I didn't even know they had an ambassador program. In fact, I think I was looking on the Fish Bum website, and I saw Carrie Cartwright,
Mm-hmm.
her little bio on the site, and it said something about her being ambassador of the year, so I wanted to know what that was.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked on WFN, and I'm like, wow, that's something I could do.
I could be ambassador of the year.
Well, no, I just looked at ambassador. I didn't even look at ambassador of the year or anything.
Is that a goal for you, though?
It was. Eventually, I thought maybe eventually I could do something like that. So I signed up. I got approved right away. And then I wrote my first post in November, something about, I'm a girl, I'm an angler. Yes, I'm a girl and I fish. That was my first post in November. And then in late December, they called me and said I was or ambassador of the month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So we share something in common.
Yeah, because you got that too.
Yeah, top ambassador. That's hanging in my studio wall, actually.
Yes, the
so.
top ambassador. So I got the nice gift package with the hat and the shirts and all the gear and everything. And man, was I ever thrilled. I think I even swore at the lady. I was like, I couldn't believe
Well, funny story about how it played out for me. I was at work when I got the news, and my wife answered the phone, and she thought the guy on the other end was putting her on. She's like, really? Really? No. Are you serious? Did he win? And sure enough, the parcel came, and yeah, so yeah, that's fantastic.
Well, I told her she had to make a really easy skill testing question. I said, I'm too excited, I can't think right now. To make it easy.
Yeah. So, how long have you been fishing?
I think I started, it would have been about 2009.
Wow, so you're a late bloomer. Did you even fish as a kid?
A little bit, but
Yeah.
like a hook and a worm. You know?
Well, that's fishing.
Well, yeah, but didn't really know what I was doing. Like when I first moved to Port Dover and then wanted to learn how to fish for real, I went online and I found the community at OntarioOutofDoors.com, and I started reading there. I was too afraid to post. I didn't think anybody would take me seriously or they'd laugh at me or whatever. So I didn't post anything. I just read for a long time, and then I started posting, and those guys were so helpful. They really encouraged me, and they were very helpful, and they didn't get tired of my endless questions.
Yeah.
I took over their forum.
Oh, there you go.
I took over, and I asked the most mundane, and looking back now, these questions I asked were so stupid.
But you know what? There's no...
Really thought it out. I could have figured it out myself.
But there is no stupid questions, especially in fishing, because I always tell people, think like a fish, and if that's not an obscene way to think, then I don't know what is. But yeah, if you don't ask the questions, how are you going to learn, right? And it looks like from going through your pictures that you've caught some substantial fish in the short period of time that you've taken up the sport.
Yeah, I started out, my very first fish was a goby, and I was so excited about that stupid little fish. I stood there and I was taking pictures of it. People were laughing at me. And then I've gone deep sea fishing, and I've caught tuna, and I've caught kingfish, and now I'm really, really stuck on steelheading. Awesome.
So, any people you want to give a plug to? Any sponsors you may have?
I'm not sponsored. I'm kind of like a free agent right now. But
free agent. But you do enjoy using Raven Tackle, apparently.
Yes, I do.
All right, Raven Tackle, there you are. I know you're a good Canadian company. Get a hold of Miss Young Rachel Moffatt.
And also Center Pin Angling.
And
I frequent their sites often. They have really good stuff, great selection, great prices.
Perfect.
And Mr. Stephen Gauthier, he's the one who took me out on the Niagara River. He works with a guiding tour company, and he took me out on his own time, and he took me out on his boat, his own time, his own gear, and he is the one who got me hooked on steelheading.
Awesome. Well, there you go. Folks, my special guest, WFN ambassador, WFN top ambassador, Rachel Moffatt. Rachel, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Ben.
Hey folks, this week's show is straight up steelheading, and it's so jam-packed we had to fill the studio with an after show. We got a live sit-in session with Ryan Edinburgh, guide and knowledgeable staff member up at Natural Sports in Kitchener, and Keith Davison has joined us again for the after show, and as well as Gary Hodge. So stick around right here, straight up steelheading on Ben-mcwhinney-outdoor-radio on the Reno-Viola Outdoor Web Radio Network. Ben-mcwhinney Outdoor Radio is brought to you by AnglersChoice.ca, the Angler's Choice in handmade soft plastics. Also presented to you by Handlebars Musky-Leaders, Zing the Bling, Frantic, Big Game Baits, Keiths-Trophy-Fishn, Fish NV Guide Service, and Husky-Musky-Leaders. You're listening to Ben McWhinney Outdoor Radio.